Ready, Andy?
Yeah, ready.
We'll go. Hi, everybody. Mark Cleghorn here. Not sure which is my camera one. I gather it's that one. Today, we're joined in our virtual trade show by one of our longtime friends and partners in the industry, Andy from Kaleidoscope. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you, Mark? You all right?
Yeah, very good. And thanks for making all that look so special in the office for me as well. It looks brilliant. So very well done. Andy, I suppose we should start off by introducing the world of Kaleidoscope to the world, as it were, isn't it? Yes. Just tell us a little bit about the history of the company and your role in the company, etc., if you could.
Okay, yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name's Andy. I'm the General Manager of Kaleidoscope Framing Limited. We are a professional bespoke picture framers, primarily for the photographic trade. We've been going for 22 years, and we've got a small team, so 17 of us in total. We've got 11 in production, and then admin, customer service, and a programmer and the owners as well. So we're just a small team, but we deal with photographers nationwide. We have a website that we've developed over the years to allow us to offer any size product, any type of mount layout that you want to choose. So you've got flexibility there to order what you want. And that's what we've built our reputation on, really, on what we offer. That is, you can have whatever you want within manufacturing restraints. So the website's geared up for that. And yeah, we get all sorts of size requests and different products that people want. So,
would you class yourself as just a pro-only company, or would you class yourself as, obviously, because I know you're a part of the Craftsman Guild, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, the Fine Art Trade Guild. Yeah, nationwide we are just trade only. We do some small retail work just locally within our town, but nationwide we are a trade only company.
Brilliant. So we've been in bed together, as they say, for around about 5 years now, I think it is, or close to it. We came across each other at trade shows and so on. I think the last time we basically chatted before we became business partners as such, in other words, involved with the academy at my experience group and so on. I think I was 12 feet up a ladder, looking down on Stephen, saying, at some stage we need to have a chat.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Exhibitions. So we're doing this kind of trade event, a virtual one, because for you, the likes of you need to have your product in front of people as often as you can. No.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's one of those products that that you need to be able to see it to sell it, and you need to be able to have it on your wall to sell it to your customers. So yeah, missing out on the trade shows this year is hard work, because we're missing that avenue to show people. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you.
Brilliant. So I'm in my gallery, and we've got all my images up on display today, and things, really, some good, some bad, the ugly, as they say. Mainly I'm the ugly one. We've got some different kind of products to talk through what I use, and perhaps you can give them a little bit of product information as we go. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yes.
Brilliant. So I'm not quite sure of my camera angles, but behind me, obviously, we've got what we refer to as the guess what, the red wall, and that basically kind of shows off a kind of an image shelf and everything else with it. We've obviously got our main images running on behind, which we'll talk about in turn and things, really. I suppose the main thing is the core image, and we're basically seeing a black and white frame with a white mount. And basically these two products are probably what I've littered the walls of clients' homes with over the years in one way or another. I do quite like simple black and white framing. Your thoughts on that, Andy?
Yeah, I personally love black and white framing. I would say we've seen quite a boost in it over the last couple of years in terms of the work coming through as well. So yeah, I like black and white, and yeah, it really looks good, especially simple. I say simply done, but it's quite powerful when you get the right frame and the right mount on the right image. So.
Okay, so I think we should talk about it as a pro photographer and also as an enthusiast photographer, because I think both you and I as companies, not only are we involved in the world of professional photography, but we're also involved in the world of kind of celebration of images, isn't it? And I think that's something that we need to celebrate today, whether people are using them kind of printing their images or not, things, really. So I thought we'd start off with my kind of two classics. We know this as Main, yes, within the Kaleidoscope world. Could you briefly describe Brandon, is that okay? Do you want me to turn it towards you? Is it okay? Yeah. Can you briefly explain the frame and the kind of the mount and everything else for me?
Yeah, so that frame and mount there, so main, all our moldings are in range names. So main is a selection of profiles and colors. It's quite a traditional shaped frame, but it's what we call an open grained wood. So you can see the grain through the wood, and then it's been painted, and it comes in 4 different colors, a white, an off-white, a black, and a gray. That one on display with you there, Mark, is the black one, and it's the medium profile. And the mount in there is what we call a duo mount. So you can really elevate a product by choosing quite an interesting different type of mount to put around the image. And I believe that's got an accent layer on that one, Mark, as well, a black.
It has, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got three mounts and an accent layer in it.
Yeah, so it's so you've got what we call a deep board, which is quite thick, and then we've got a standard board on top, and then the black accent in between. And has it got a groove as well? I think that one.
It has, yes, correct.
Yeah, so yeah, a V groove is a way to add embellishment to the mount, and it just draws the eye in towards the image, which is what you're trying to do. Whether you're a professional, whether you're an enthusiast, you want to put that image on the wall, and you want that to be the focus, not the frame. You want the image to be the focus when it's on the wall.
For me, whether it's black and white street photography, whether it's portraiture, wedding photography, whatever kind of I'm either selling or celebrating, I always find that kind of keep it as simple as you can in the production. As far as how it's going to look on the wall. If I kind of look around my home, it's pretty much all white walls anyway and things. So as far as the classic black and white framing, that's where I kind of win. Brandon, I'm not sure how easy it is to actually get onto my core image across. I'm sure you're going to actually see all my can of Coke, my laptop at the same time. It's not sponsored by Coke today anyway. It's a real shame. Talk to me about this one. And Andy, can you?
Yeah, so that one again, I think it's a duo mount, the deep with the standard on top, and it's in the range that we call shades, which is there's a black and white version and 4 different profiles. So again, this is a very smooth finish, as opposed to the main that's got the grain of the wood showing through. This one is just a smooth satin finish. It's what's called a lacquered finish on the molding. So it's a simpler, cleaner finish. Again, as you can see there, it just draws your eye in towards those 2 images on the wall and really catches your attention. So
I think for photographers, if you're looking for more of a gallery look, so in other words, whether it's a street photography, or in this case 2 beautiful young girls, as it were, really what we're doing is kind of, as I said, celebrating that photograph. And I think the likes of the shades, it's a very, very thin profile on the side, very close to the wall. It's about 2 inches wide, but I usually go for the deeper border compared to the thinner borders that you might see on some of them. I like that kind of real gallery finish. All right, so think about how you're using it within your space or how you want to be selling it. But I don't think that you can go wrong pretty much with imagery when they're kind of kept it simple. Let's just pop over to what I refer to as Andy's corner, because when he comes down on exhibitions with us, he kind of stands over here and he does all the kind of little talk through. So Andy, we've got my 9 on display, which is kind of a very, very simple. It's very similar to shades in a way, but it has a slight wood texture. Can you talk to us about this?
Yeah, that's the 9 individual frames, is it, Mark? Yes.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so they are a composite molding. So they've got a grain finish, but they're rather than a wood, they're a plastic-based frame, and they're manufactured to look like they've got a grain, and they've got a slight sheen to them. They're a really good sort of a cheaper option to a wooden frame. In terms of offering it, and as you've displayed it there, it just goes to show how well just using small frames, displaying your images on a wall as a collection can look. It really just catches your eye, and it's about making a feature out of more than one image there, but in multiple products. So
I think we've seen this kind of presentation creep in the past 5 to 10 years specifically, isn't it? When especially when we see the likes of the IKEA framing, you can pretty much go in and buy a pulp frame for a couple of quid, and basically they're kind of not longevity. I mean, they are a pulp frames. What's the difference between the likes of this frame and the likes of an IKEA frame from your point of view?
Okay, so in terms of for us, you know, we've built our reputation on quality products, so it's the time and effort that goes into manufacturing that product. So we have a lot of quality checks in place to ensure that the products that you get as the end user is as perfect as it can be. That being a extruded molding, plastic molding is slightly different to the wooden-based moldings, whereas the products you might buy for a much cheaper price at larger stores, like you say IKEA or elsewhere, are manufactured in mass and normally sort of MDF wrapped woods things rather than a solid wood or a solid plastic frame. So the longevity of these products that we offer will be far longer in terms of staying on the wall and will last the last time, basically.
We've proved that with our experience group as well, haven't we? We've actually left an IKEA frame side by side to one of yours on a windowsill, and we've basically watched it kind of almost disintegrate through the combination of either damp or heat. And because our studios and galleries are an old converted church, you can't pick a better place for either very hot the one moment or very cold the next moment of things, really. What about the kind of the hanging of these images and things? Any advice for anybody when they start to actually kind of want to do a kind of a layout on a wall like here? What's the best ways for us to be looking at how we can kind of position them all? Any tips and tricks? Because hanging an image can be as difficult as anything.
Yeah, hanging an image can be really hard work. Yeah. For that type of layout there, where you've got 9 images, so on our frames, we put hangers on the back, and on that sort of product, they'd always be centered along the top piece of the molding. So I would measure from the top of the frame on the back down to where your nail or your hook's going to need to be. So you've got that measurement from the top of the frame. I would put your fixing point in the wall for the center at the top and then work out a measurement based on those frames. So there's a little bit of maths involved. I would sit with a bit of paper if it was me, and just plot out a bit of a plan of where I'm going to put those nails in the wall or screws in the wall or picture hooks, whatever you're going to use. But you're better to spend a bit of time working that out than just going up to the wall and going for it. So.
And please check there's not electricity behind or gas.
Oh,
gas
definitely.
Behind
Yeah.
pipes. Yeah, very, very key on that. What about when somebody's trying to hang a series of pictures that are strung with the likes of a cord? Because that can be quite difficult, hanging an image, because, you know, especially if you're saying do a 2 or 3 together, and when you're trying to get the top of it pretty much, you know, aligned. Any advice for anybody trying to hang photographs?
Yeah, again, the same principle. I'd turn the product over, and I'd actually use your finger as if it was going to be the hook on the wall, and I'd push the cord up as high as it will go, so you can see where that point is when you hang it. And again, measure down from the top of the frame, and that's going to give you a rough idea of where that's going to sit. And again, you know, a frame or balance, you're normally just hanging it on one point. So as long as that point's centered, then the distance above it will be where the top of the frame sits on the cord. And once you've got one of those in place, just make sure your other hooks along the line, if you're putting them along a wall, one next to each other, exactly the same position.
So a very strange question to ask a man, but 2 screws or 1 screw?
2 screws or 1 screw? It would depend on the product, I think. It's based on the weight when you're holding it in your hands. You know, I would, you know, I'm just looking behind you, but like the product that's on the easel next to you, yeah, that I'd be putting that on just 1 picture hook should be fine. But you know, it's more about what wall you're going into as well. So I would make that judgment too. If you're going into a plasterboard wall, then the more the better. If you're going into a brick wall, you can get away with a little bit less. So.
Yeah, the greater the weight, the more the support, isn't it? I speak from experience, actually, on my stomach, of course, yes, but let's not get into that. By the way, this is one of my images from the 101 beards that I shot at one of the big trade shows many years ago. I was literally begging men with beards to come on and have a quick photograph, and I was shooting them live over the 3 days, and I only had 2 half-hour slots twice a day, as it was, so 2 half hours each day, and I had to shoot 101 men with beards. And basically, I got to be honest, if you haven't checked out the 101 beards kind of film on the experience on the Photographer Academy, you must do, because if you see me sweat under normal conditions, trying to get through 101 people in basically 3 hours was a lot to ask, especially when I was holding the kind of the softbox on a stand as well with it. Enough about me. Anyway, where do you want to go? You can see everything behind me here. Andy anyway. Should we talk about recessing images in the frame and spaces and kind of then actually making it look like it floats? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so that product that you just walked up to, Mark, that's in our range called Opus, which comes, it's a frame molding that comes with what we call a spacer. So you can put a piece of wood inside that matches the finish of the frame. And what that enables you to do is create a really deep box-like effect where you can put the mount at the back of the frame and the glass at the front, and you've got this piece of wood with the spacer keeping those two apart. So in that instance, we've got the image on a fine art paper, and then what we've done is given it a decollage edge. So there's lots of ways to enhance how the image looks or draw the eye into the image. So by keeping the mount very simple, and on that image you've got the white background, by tearing the edge, it just creates almost a border around the image to cast your eye into looking at that product on the wall. We've seen this grow in popularity as a type of way to frame. It's you can do it in all sorts of different frames. In that one, it's a black charcoal oak effect, but we've seen it done in similar ones to the shades one. There's a deep vision of shades where you can have the smooth finish, even to some metallic finishes. But it's proving more and more popular, and it's just a nice way to really just elevate the image within the frame.
And on a kind of a personal level, I absolutely love this tear rag kind of effect. What do you find popular going through production for you from professional photographers and then from the art world? Does one favor one or the other?
Yeah, we do quite a mix because we do deal with artists, but a lot of the time the artists, it's their original work, so they wouldn't want us to be tearing the edges and things like that. They tend to, you know, in the photographic customers, the decollage edge is incredibly popular. It gets used on a lot of different formats and different styles and shapes. Like you say, I personally really like it. I've got it up in my home. I like the way it looks. There's so many options within frame, and a lot of it is down to personal preference and what you like and don't like. But if there's a way of, you know, just creating something else to draw the eye in towards the image, that's what that does there. So.
And just staying on the kind of, I mentioned about the images recessed behind. Obviously, we use a lot of passe-partout, or, you know, the mount to keep the print away from the glass. Why shouldn't a print touch the glass? So
print shouldn't touch a glass because over time, obviously you've got humidity in the air and you can get condensation behind the glass. So what can happen, and everyone has seen this at some point, an old photo or an old picture where it's actually stuck to the glass in the frame. And that's because they're touching to begin with. Condensation builds up inside during hot, cold in the house or wherever it may be. And that image will then stick to the glass. And if you try and remove it, you'll tear it. So yeah, as you've got demonstrated there and with the other products on display, we basically ensure that you have a mount or a spacer, like in that instance, to keep the glass off the image and make sure they're not touching, to give it space to breathe, basically.
While we're speaking about prints away from glass, I know you do a sealed unit. As far as the glass is taped and things. I've got one just over on the side. I think you might have one too. They can't see you.
Can't see me.
But well, they can, in fact. You can show it up. Really. If I kind of hold mine up, why go through all the effort of the kind of the sealing of the glass things? Really, why?
It's longevity in terms of making sure that quality of that product that we send out is the best it possibly can be. It's a production method for us to help with volume, and it basically, you know, it comes down to quality of work. By sealing the unit and ensuring that there's no dust in there means that when we hand that product over to the customer, it's the best it possibly can be.
Brilliant. And if there is, you know, any tips if people are framing their own work, any tips on how they can get the dreaded dust out?
Yeah, order through us. No. A lint-free cloth is one thing that will really help. Obviously, here we have compressors and air guns to be able to blow the dust out, which is easy when you've got the machinery available. But if you haven't got the machinery available, lint-free tissues, cloths to be able to clean the glass. What I would say is just make sure the glass is not wet at all. So if you use a glass cleaner, make sure it's completely dry before you start putting it together. But it's perseverance. That's the honest answer. perseverance and a good eye, and just keep checking and removing and checking and removing. So
and you joked about it, but use professional is basically what you should do with all the glass, especially if you're in the pro. Let's talk about multiple images. You know, I'm an absolutely advocate is avoid from putting loads of photographs in one frame, which obviously really good news for you as a framer, isn't it? I know it makes it a little bit more expensive for me, but I'm always about selling multiple wall art instead of single wall art with it. I mean, the one that we're showing here, I refer to it, and it's your product, it's IF11, isn't it? We kind of 30-inch, but it also comes with all kind of packaged together where you get kind of 2 10x8s and a 10x10 in the middle. Can you talk to me about the box installations, please?
Yeah, so box installation is basically a box frame. So it is a laminated image. There's no glass. The image is mounted onto a foam board and put into the frame. So it's front loaded into the frame, whereas a traditional frame is back loaded. So that's then glued into the frame. And with the installation, the idea is that you have a number of products that are presented in one presentation box. So it's a great way to offer, like you say, multiple images in multiple products as a full set. And whether they're displayed on the wall like the set of 4 next to the large 30-20, whether they're displayed like that, so that you've got them on the wall like that, or you use it, you know, as a professional, you use it as a way to sell it, and the customer might put the large one up somewhere and the smaller ones elsewhere.
Sorry to interrupt for a minute, but what I love about you, okay, I haven't got a third hand, all right? But basically the other 10 at the 10x8 would go to the right-hand side here. Basically, these can be removed from the display. People can put them around the house, like you were saying. But what's great, in fact, is that it all comes like that to the client, no? So when we unbox it to present it to the client, they're all actually in the same box together instead of, you know, four different boxes. Why did you make the effort on that?
We made the effort on that because it felt like it was something missing in the market in terms of people wanted to sell multiple frames as a set, and this was a way of offering sets, but being able to reduce the price for our customers slightly. So by tying it into being the same molding and presenting it in one box rather than, for example, that installation would have been 4 separate boxes, we're able to reduce the material cost slightly and get the price down for our customers. So it was a gap in the market, basically.
We do cheat in our studios, as you know, when there's a multiple like it is. I mean, you were great years ago. You actually, one of our demonstration units that we used to take out on all the kind of the trade fairs and so on, we had the IF08, which is a 20-inch version, isn't it? And you put it on a piece of MDF to me, so I could actually show it what it looked like. This is very, very similar, in fact. Excuse the kind of the brick wall effect behind, but it comes from the webinar room, as you'll all know what it's like. And so behind me is all a brick effect wallpaper, and this is just a piece of MDF, so it means that we can change the design. Now, obviously, you're not going to do that in your own home or present it to a client, but if you're traveling around with portfolio or you're a camera club looking to have an exhibition and so on with it, it's a great simple way to be able to do it. Things really. What are the little dots for on the back? Can you just explain? Well, I know what they are, but can you explain what they're for?
Okay, so the little white dots, whatever type of hangers on the back of the frame, whether it's a glazed product or the box frames like you've got there, the little bumpers, as we call them, that's to stop the frame rubbing against the wall. So when you hang it on the wall, that just makes the frame sit level and stop it rubbing and leaving any marks on your wall at home.
Brilliant. And give us an idea on costings. Can you just, the likes of 4 images together and things, really, what kind of cost would we be looking at? Any ideas?
I'm going to be brutally honest. No, not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I can have a quick look while we're talking. So bear with me a second.
I think for the IF11, we're talking about 150 for the 4 images, isn't it? And I think for the 20-inch equivalent, about 125, something like that. Is that right?
That's sounding right. Yeah, I'll have a quick look at the IF11 now and just see what. Yeah, but yeah, around the 150 mark for the IF11. So yeah, you're spot on there, Mark.
Brilliant. So again, think about kind of presentation. If you're selling to clients, think about what is going to be a great installation of images instead of just the one-off ones, really. Right, let's head down into the gallery corner over here. I've kind of put a bit of an eclectic mix on there. I did put in a problem. So first of all, I absolutely love what we refer to as the metal frames. You call it tech, I believe, isn't it?
We do, yeah, tech, yeah.
And we use these a lot when we're looking to replace the image behind it. Obviously, it's a metal-based product. As far as the frame edge is concerned, it's obviously got glass in it. Here we're using a double black matte, but it's great for our fine art stuff, especially if we're doing like mini exhibitions, to actually swap and change the actual prints behind. You can get obviously the matte to fit in there. Any advice on when you're putting print, when you're replacing print yourself behind the glass itself?
Yeah, I mean, we always recommend that prints, particularly photographic prints, are stuck down onto a board. So we use what we call adhesive board. That will prevent the image rippling over time. You would have seen frames, everyone would have seen frames at some point where the product in there is rippling or changing. For some products, you know, artwork and things, you can't stick that down if it's a one-off original. But for things like photographs that can be reproduced, you'd put it onto a board to ensure that the longevity of the product, again, making sure that it stays flat and smooth and it looks right within the frame. And as you said, those tech frames are great, especially if you're using them for something like a gallery display where you're changing it because you're able to unscrew the back, remove one side of the frame and swap it over again. So they're really good frame choice for that type of product.
Brilliant. As far as, you know, we come to you with ideas, isn't it? Because the Experience Group's got quite a lot of photographers with, you know, the portrait world. Obviously, we've got ideas that we're kind of dripping into the marketplace. What's the kind of the opulent kind of frame doing in the industry, you know, not just in photography, but also in the artwork as well? Because this is quite an opulent kind of finish, isn't it? Almost like a vintage, high-end kind of thing. Is it a popular thing? Obviously, I know it's an acquired taste, but do you think you're seeing growth with the kind of more bespoke, a little bit more kind of a difference?
Yeah, just to clarify, because I can't quite see what you're looking at. Is that the boudoir frame?
It is, yes. Sorry, Andy.
Yep. No, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, that style of frame, we refer those styles of frames as Marmite because you love them or hate them. They're not sort of a middle ground. And we have seen, we have that one you've got on display, and we've got another range called Madrid, which are more of those sort of real high-end, traditional, almost swept looking frames. And in terms of sales, they're not the best-selling frame choice. As I say, they're a love it or hate it frame, really. There's no middle ground. People are one way or the other. But there has been an increase over the last few years in terms of people using that and using that type of frame. But I also think it suits different types of genre of work as well. So you know, it tends to tie in better with, as you've got an example there, like the boudoir shoots and that type of thing. So.
When I first got involved with the industry, late 80s, that's 1980s, of course, not the 1880s, some would say, you couldn't move through different studios without seeing what we refer to as a sweat frame, this really kind of almost flowery, floral kind of big kind of edges. I don't even know how to explain it to the person. I've got no idea what we're on about sweat, but again, it's amazing how trends come in and out of taste, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And sweat frames, I mean, if I go back 6-7 years, there was a bit of a resurgence in them. We don't tend to do very many of those. They tend to be products that you buy in and they are a set size, whereas we like to make to any size. So we do the more traditional moldings in terms of, but it's lost my train of thought there, Mark.
No, but it's never say never, because these trends come in and out, isn't it?
They do, yeah. Yeah, well, I've been here 15 years, and in the 15 years I've been working for Kaleidoscope, I've seen traditional fillet mounts come and go over the years. They, you know, literally at a point where every mount we're doing is fillet mounts, to a point where we're not within a couple of years, and then back again. And that applies to the frames. They do come and go, and as you say, the trends they go around in cycles. So.
I think just kind of bringing this to an end of things, really. I mean, one of the main things to do is to ensure that your display has longevity, isn't it? When you're investing into either samples or basically selling to clients, you want a product that is going to be around for a long time. I don't want to invest in a new idea that's going to be, you know, out of use in 18 months. On the other hand, there are times where you bring different ideas in for a quick hit and see if they take off, and just actually see how the market plays as well within these. Really, I'm a massive fan, I should have said, of very big images or very small images and lots of them. Do you know what I mean? So I like to see, as I mentioned before, multiple images, whether they're going to be in clusters or collections or whatever it be. And we saw over on the 9. You kind of knocked this up as a bit of an example for me, didn't you, a couple of years ago, for me to actually talk about with my portrait photographers and everything else, because I wanted to actually get them into the idea. So these are the white frames with all the different sizes, and these are part of your budget packs, isn't it? So I can buy them off the shelf, except for the bigger one. Budget packs must sell a lot to the pro industry profit-wise, yes?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, because you know, they're a cost-effective product, and they're used for lots of different reasons. And there's quite a variety that we do as well. So you know, as a self-assembly product, something that the customer could, you know, the photographer can put together themselves as an additional product to sell to their customer. Keeps their costs down, but it's adding something in as a small desktop or a small wall portrait if they want to hang it on the wall, because they come with both options. You can stand or hang them. So
brilliant. Advice on what to kind of invest into as a photographer, or if you're trying to put your kind of first shop premises together or gallery. Any advice on you're choosing your first selection of frames?
Yeah, I mean, the advice we give to any photographer that we're talking to is to have a range to offer your customer, but not too much of a range. If there's too much choice, they can't make a decision. You've got bread and butter moldings like the black and white shades we talked about earlier. That will always sell. Having a wood option in there, like a range we called Essence, or the Tech, which has, you can buy with a wood veneer around it. So having some sort of wood option, and we tend to find a metallic option and a traditional option like the main. Those kind of 4 cover the majority of customers' tastes, and it's a good place to start. And what we tend to find is customers will order, you know, chevrons, and we also do a box of all the different mounts that we offer, because there's so much choice, so that you can look through and decide what you want. So as a professional photographer, I would say that you need to look through our brochure, order the chevrons for the frames that you think you want to offer, but there's no harm in ordering a few more and then just cherry picking which ones you want to show your customer. Keep that choice minimized a little bit, and then with the mounts, you know, we'll send you a box, and I think there's 35 mount combinations in there, but what you want to be picking is 1 or 2. You don't want to be offering your customer that many. You want to be picking what works for you and for your business, and about creating your own style almost with the mounts and the frames that you're choosing.
Brilliant. And just tell them where they can get any information about Kaleidoscope. We'll try and put it in the links below anyway, yeah? But whereabouts can they go to your website? Okay,
yes, if you go to our website, which is www.kaleidoscope-framing.co.uk, on there you can register for an account as long as you trade. We also have a link to videos, which is a tutorial on how to use the website, how to go through and use certain aspects of the website. Equally, our email address and phone numbers on there, and you can give us a call and we can talk through anything and help you out.
So just a bit of a hint, if you can't remember how to spell kaleidoscope when you're putting it in, it's we do it here, or at least Mark Cleghorn does. It's Kale I do scope. Yeah, that's the only way I can remember how to type it in fast. And once Steve, one of our videographers, he said, "No, that's how I do it." I went, "Oh my God, that is genius!" So kaleidoscope is either one of those words you know how to spell because you're intelligent, or if you're a dinosaur like I am, that needs a thesaurus or a spell check in everything you do. Then Kale I do scope. Framing is obviously where you get the information from Andy. Andy, thank you so much for joining us live. I'm sorry we can't be together in public, but of course, with all the C-19 kind of protocols and kind of conditions, I know at present you're under your very, very busy times getting ready for Christmas trade, and I know you've got restrictions on your travel to us and things really. But thanks for joining us online. I'm sure we'll be bringing you loads of events like this next year, and perhaps we can do something live where I'll come up to you and we'll actually see one of my images going through the whole process during the course of a session.
Sounds like a good idea. Like it. Thanks very much, Mark.
Merry Christmas, mate. All my regards to you and the team, and we'll see you in the other side of 2021. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
See you next time. Take care. Remember, live at 5 on a Wednesday. unless I decide to do special events like this. See you soon. Bye-bye.